Hey everyone, welcome back to the show for another deep dive. It sounds like a lot of you are prepping for a big exam on new product development and the product life cycle.
Definitely a hot topic.
Yeah, a lot to cover, so we're going to break it all down. Make sure you've got a handle on those key concepts, the theories, the definitions, the stuff professors love to put on tests.
That's right. The stuff that really matters.
Exactly. And remember, this deep dive is brought to you by Grade Guru. You can find practice exams and a super helpful summary of all this material at gradeguru.nl. All right, let's jump right in.
Okay.
First up, what exactly is new product development? It seems pretty self-explanatory, right?
Mhm.
But I bet there's more to it than meets the eye.
Oh, absolutely. It goes way beyond just coming up with a brand new invention. It's much broader than that.
So it's not just about, inventing the next flying car or something.
Right.
Okay, so what else is it about?
Well, think about all those new and improved products you see out there. Your favorite cereal with a trendy new flavor, or a smartphone with a camera that can practically see into the future.
Yeah.
Those are all examples of new product development in action.
So it's not just about reinventing the wheel, it's about making that wheel sleeker faster, maybe adding some cool LED lights.
Exactly. It's
Mhm.
about understanding what's already out there, identifying opportunities for improvement, and then figuring out how to bring those ideas to life.
Okay, so we're not just talking about tweaking an existing product. We can also create entirely new product lines or even branch out into totally different markets.
Yeah, absolutely. Think about it like a company saying, hey, we make killer running shoes. Why not try our hand at designing cutting-edge sportswear too?
Yeah, totally. That makes sense. So it's really about expanding horizons, taking risks, and really keeping your eyes on what customers actually want.
You got it. Understanding the ever-changing needs and desires of your customers is key.
Okay, so we've got a good grasp on what new product development is, but how does it actually happen in the real world? Is there like a secret formula, a step-by-step guide to transforming those light bulb moments into actual products?
Well, no magic spells, but there is a strategic process that companies use. It's called the new product development process.
Okay.
And it's basically a roadmap for bringing those innovative ideas to life.
Okay, I like that. A roadmap. So where does this roadmap begin? What's the first step in this whole process?
It all starts with idea generation.
Yeah.
That's the brainstorming phase where companies are trying to capture as many potential product ideas as possible.
Okay, so it's like casting a wide net trying to catch all those creative sparks.
Exactly. And these ideas can come from within the company itself, tapping into the collective brilliance of their employees.
Right, utilizing all that in-house talent.
Or they can come from external sources like market research, customer feedback, or even keeping an eye on what the competition is up to.
Ah, a little friendly rivalry never hurt anyone, right?
Well, maybe not during an exam. But in the business world, it's not just acceptable. It's essential to stay ahead of the curve.
Totally makes sense. So companies are out there gathering ideas like crazy. They got notebooks overflowing with potential products, but they can't possibly pursue them all, right?
Of course not. That's where the next step comes in idea screening. It's all about separating the wheat from the chaff, the game-changing ideas from the ones that might need a little more work.
Okay, so it's like a filtering process.
Exactly.
But how do they actually make those decisions? Is there like a specific criteria or framework they use?
Absolutely. One very effective framework is called the RWW approach.
RWW. Okay, I'm intrigued. Break that down for us.
It stands for real win worth doing.
Real win worth doing.
And it basically helps companies evaluate each idea before they invest too much time and energy.
Okay, so let's break it down. What does real mean in this context?
Real means, is there a genuine need for this product? Will people actually buy it? Is there a market for it?
So you're really checking to see if there's a demand for this thing.
Right. Then win asks, can we actually compete effectively in this market? Do we have the resources, the expertise to make this product a success?
So it's not just about having a great idea. It's about being able to execute it and win in the marketplace.
Exactly. And finally, worth doing asks if it aligns with the company's overall goals. Is this product strategically worthwhile to pursue?
It's like a reality check.
Exactly. It's about making sure those initial sparks of inspiration are actually worth pursuing from a business perspective.
Okay, so we've brainstormed a bunch of ideas and narrowed them down using this RWW framework.
Mm.
What's next on our product development adventure?
Well, now it's time to flesh out those promising ideas and turn them into fully realized concepts.
Okay, so this is where we're going from, hey, wouldn't it be cool if, to Here's exactly what this thing would look like, feel like, how it would work.
Exactly. It's called concept development and testing.
Yeah.
It's all about painting a clear picture of what this product is and who it's for.
So we're talking about defining features, benefits, target audience, really bringing that concept to life.
Absolutely. And to make sure we get it right, we do concept testing. This is where we get feedback from potential customers.
So it's like a test run.
Exactly. We want to make sure the concept resonates with people before we invest too much in developing the actual product.
Right. You don't want to build something nobody wants.
Exactly. So we might use focus group surveys, online platforms to gather feedback and refine the concept.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's like doing a test screening of a movie before you release it in theaters.
Perfect analogy. You want to make sure it captures the audience's attention.
Right. Okay, so we've got our concept refined. We've got feedback from potential users. Now it's time to figure out how to get this amazing product into the hands of eager customers, right? That's where the marketing plan comes in.
Absolutely. Now we move into marketing strategy development. This is where we map out the entire journey from introducing the product to ensuring its long-term success.
I love a good roadmap analogy. So what are the key elements of this marketing master plan?
It all starts with the target market. Who are we trying to reach with this product? What are their needs, desires, their pain points? What value are we offering them?
Right. It's like choosing your destination for a road trip. You need to know where you're going.
Exactly. Then we dive into the marketing mix, the 4 Ps: product, price, place, and promotion.
Okay, the classic 4 Ps.
It's like figuring out the logistics of your road trip. What's the best route? What's your budget for gas and tolls?
And what about the long-term vision? We don't just want to launch this product. We want to see it thrive in the market.
Absolutely. We need to set sales and profit goals for the future and figure out how to keep evolving our marketing strategies to adapt to changes in the market.
So we're thinking about the entire lifespan of the product.
Precisely. It's like envisioning where you want to be after the road trip and how you'll keep that car running smoothly for years to come.
Okay, so we've got a clear vision for our product, a solid marketing plan. Now we got to make sure this whole thing makes financial sense, right?
You got it. Now it's time for the business analysis phase. This is where we crunch the numbers and look at projected sales production costs, marketing expenses, all that good stuff.
Right. We need to make sure those numbers add up, that this brilliant idea is actually financially viable.
Exactly. It's about making sure the investment is worthwhile.
Okay, so let's assume the numbers look good. We're feeling confident. We're ready to bring this concept to life. What happens next?
It's time to move from the drawing board to the workshop, from concept to creation. This is the product development stage.
Okay, so this is where we're actually building the thing.
Exactly. We're taking those blueprints and turning them into a tangible, physical product.
It's like those cooking shows where they take a bunch of ingredients and transform them into a culinary masterpiece.
I love that analogy. And just like in cooking, it's not just about functionality. We also need to consider the psychological appeal of the product.
Okay, so we're talking about how the product makes people feel.
Right. Does it align with their values, aspirations? Does it spark joy?
So we're really trying to create a product that connects with people on an emotional level.
Precisely. And to make sure we get it right, we do a lot of prototyping and testing at this stage. We build early versions of the product, gather feedback, refine the design until we get it just right.
It's like those test kitchens where chefs experiment with different flavors and techniques before they finalize a dish.
Exactly. We want to make sure we're serving up a product that people will love.
Okay, so we've meticulously planned, developed, and tested our product. Now we're ready for the big moment, right? Time to launch this thing into the world.
You're absolutely right. It's time for commercialization, the grand finale of our product development journey.
Let's roll out the red carpet.
Well, maybe not that dramatic, but you get the idea. Commercialization is all about introducing our product to the market and making sure it's a success.
Okay, so no pressure, right?
Yeah.
But seriously, this is where all those late nights and brainstorming sessions finally pay off. It's got to be exhilarating.
Absolutely. But even in this final stage, there are still important decisions to make. Like, do we launch nationwide or start with a regional approach? Do we target specific customer segments first?
Right, so we need to think about the rollout strategy.
Exactly. It's all about making sure we create the right buzz, generate excitement, and set the stage for long-term success.
Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground here. We've walked through the entire new product development process, from that initial spark of an idea to the grand launch. But our journey isn't over yet. We still need to explore the product lifecycle, which basically outlines the different stages a product goes through from its introduction to its eventual decline.
Exactly. Understanding the product lifecycle is like having a crystal ball that helps companies anticipate challenges, adapt their strategies, and ensure their products remain successful throughout their journey in the market.
Okay, so now we're talking about the life and times of a product, the ups and downs, the triumphs and challenges. I'm ready to trace those stages. Where do we begin?
The journey kicks off with product development, that exciting, sometimes chaotic phase where the seed of an idea takes root and starts to grow. It's all about research, brainstorming, prototyping, pouring tons of energy and resources into bringing that concept to life.
It's like watching a behind-the-scenes documentary about making a movie. You see the screenwriters, the set designers, the costume designers, all working tirelessly, pouring their hearts and souls into the project before the cameras even start rolling.
Exactly. And just like in movie production, the initial stages of product development are all about investment. Sales are non-existent because, well, the product doesn't exist yet. It's a period of high costs and anticipation, all building towards that big premiere when we finally introduce our creation to the world.
Okay, so the product is finally ready for its close-up. It's premiere night. What happens next?
We enter the introduction stage, that exhilarating but often nerve-wracking moment when the product makes its grand debut.
It's like those first few weeks after a movie is released.
Exactly. You've got a lot of buzz, a lot of excitement, but also a lot of uncertainty. Will it be a box office hit or a flop?
And just like in the movie business, you've got to get people talking. You've got to generate that word-of-mouth buzz.
Absolutely. Marketing efforts during this stage are all about building awareness, shouting from the rooftops about the product's unique features and benefits, and generating those crucial first sales that signal a promising future.
So it's all about making a splash, grabbing attention, and getting those early adopters on board. But what happens once the initial buzz fades? How does a product maintain that momentum and really take off?
Well, if the product captures the hearts and minds of consumers, we move into the growth stage. This is where things really start to take off. Sales climb rapidly, word of mouth spreads like wildfire, and the product gains wider acceptance in the market.
It's like that moment when a movie becomes a blockbuster hit.
Exactly. Everyone's talking about it, lines are forming around the block, and the studio is already planning sequels.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
So during this growth stage, competition starts to heat up, right? Other companies see the success and want a piece of the pie.
You got it. It becomes even more crucial to build brand loyalty, differentiate your product from the crowd, and maybe even expand your product line to offer variations that cater to different segments of the market.
Okay, so it's a balancing act. You're riding a wave of success,
Yeah,
but you also need to strategize to stay ahead of the curve.
precisely. Think about the early days of smartphones. As demand exploded, companies had to constantly innovate, adding new features, improving designs, finding ways to stand out in a rapidly evolving market.
Yeah, they couldn't afford to just sit back and relax. They had to keep pushing the boundaries.
Right. Okay, so the product has experienced that exhilarating growth spurt, but eventually that rapid expansion has to slow down, right?
Right.
Yeah.
What happens when a product reaches its peak? Does it just stay there forever?
We enter the maturity stage, the
Yeah.
longest stage in the product life cycle.
Okay, the maturity stage.
Mm.
So the market is saturated, competition is fierce, and sales growth starts to level off.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like reaching a plateau after a steep climb.
So what's the strategy during this stage? How do companies keep their products relevant when the initial excitement has faded?
The focus shifts from aggressive growth to maximizing profitability and defending your market share.
Okay, so it's about maintaining that strong position in the market.
Right. Companies might try to modify the market by finding new uses for their product or attracting new customer segments. Think about baking soda. It started as a simple baking ingredient, but over time, companies discovered and promoted its versatility as a cleaning agent, a deodorizer, even a teeth whitener.
Whoa, that's a serious glow-up for baking soda.
Right. Another strategy during the maturity stage is to modify the product itself.
So you're talking about adding new features, enhancing its quality, maybe even updating the packaging to keep things fresh and appealing?
You got it. Think about those classic cars that get a modern makeover with updated technology and sleek new designs. They're appealing to a new generation while still holding on to the nostalgia that made them iconic.
That's a cool way to breathe new life into a product. So it's all about adapting, evolving, finding ways to keep the product exciting and relevant in a market that's constantly changing. But eventually, even the most successful products face the inevitable right.
I am. It's the natural progression of the product life cycle.
Oh no, you're not talking about the dreaded decline stage, are you?
I am.
The moment when the curtain starts to fall.
Exactly. Sales decline, profits dwindle, and the product's once bright star starts to fade.
It's a bittersweet moment, like watching the final season of your favorite TV show.
You got it. The decline can be triggered by various factors. Maybe technological advancements have rendered the product obsolete, or maybe consumer preferences have shifted and there's simply no longer a strong demand.
It's like when streaming services came along and changed the way we watch movies.
Mhm.
Suddenly, those stacks of DVDs became relics of the past.
Precisely. So, what options do companies have when their product enters this decline stage? Do they just throw in the towel?
Well, they could try to fight the inevitable, desperately trying to revive the product and reclaim its former glory. But that sounds like an uphill battle, right?
It can be. Sometimes it makes more sense to accept the decline and manage it strategically.
Okay, so how do you manage decline strategically?
One option is to harvest the product, minimizing marketing and production costs to squeeze out as much profit as possible from those remaining sales. It's like getting the last bit of juice out of a lemon.
Okay, so you're trying to maximize efficiency and make the most of the situation while acknowledging that the end is near.
Exactly. Another strategy is to divest the product, selling or licensing it to another company that might see potential where you no longer do.
So it's like passing the torch to a new generation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And of course, there's always the option to discontinue the product altogether to give it a proper send-off and make space for new innovations.
Like retiring a beloved sports jersey.
Exactly. Sometimes letting go is the best strategy. Now remember, we've talked about the product life cycle as this linear progression,
Right.
but in reality, it can be quite dynamic. Okay.
Some products might experience a resurgence in popularity, like those vintage clothing styles that make a comeback every few decades. And some products might defy traditional stages altogether, remaining relevant and profitable for decades.
So it's not an exact science.
Exactly. It's more of a framework for understanding the journey a product takes through the market. And just like any journey, there are twists and turns, unexpected detours, and moments of both triumph and disappointment.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've explored the product life cycle from birth to decline. But now let's dive a bit deeper into some specific stages, starting with the introduction stage.
Sounds good.
This is where those critical launch decisions can make or break a product's success. So what are some key considerations during this crucial launch phase?
One of the biggest challenges is choosing the right launch strategy.
Mhm.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
You have to carefully consider factors like pricing, distribution, and promotional activities to ensure a successful entry into the market.
It's like planning a grand opening for a new store. Exactly. You need to decide whether to go for a high-price exclusive launch, creating a sense of luxury and desirability, or a more affordable mass-market approach to capture a wider audience right from the start. You also have to figure out which distribution channels will be most effective.
Right. Online retail stores, a combination of both.
Exactly. And of course, you need to craft a compelling marketing message. That's super important.
So it's all about creating that buzz and getting people excited about the product.
Right. You're trying to generate excitement, build momentum, but also manage costs and set realistic expectations. It's a balancing act.
Okay, that makes sense. Now let's move on to the growth stage, where sales are soaring and the product is gaining serious momentum. This is where the party really gets started, right?
Absolutely. During this stage, you want to capitalize on that growing demand and maximize your market share. You might consider expanding your product line, introducing new features or variations, or entering new geographic markets to reach a wider audience.
It's like riding a wave, trying to stay ahead of the curve and keep the momentum going.
You got it. But you also need to be mindful of profitability.
Rapid growth can sometimes lead to increased costs and logistical challenges.
Exactly. You need to find that sweet spot between capturing market share and maintaining a healthy bottom line.
It's like managing the budget for a successful movie franchise.
Exactly. You want to invest in those sequels and spin-offs, but you also need to make sure you're not overspending.
Right. Makes sense.
Right.
Now, as the market matures and sales growth starts to level off, we enter the maturity stage. This is where the product reaches its peak, like a seasoned actor at the height of their career.
Exactly. The maturity stage is often the longest stage of the product life cycle, and it requires a different strategic approach.
Okay, so what are some key strategies for this stage?
Well, competition is typically fierce during this stage, so companies need to focus on defending their market share and maximizing profits.
So how do they stay in the game when the initial hype has faded and new challengers are emerging?
One common strategy is to modify the market, finding new uses for the product, targeting new customer segments, or even repositioning the product to appeal to a different audience. It's like a veteran actor taking on diverse roles to stay in demand.
I like that analogy. So they're not just relying on their past successes,
Yeah.
they're constantly reinventing themselves.
Exactly. Another strategy is to modify the product itself, introducing new features, enhancing its quality, or updating its packaging or design to freshen up its appeal.
It's like releasing a special edition DVD with bonus features.
Exactly. And finally, we reach the inevitable decline stage.
The final act of the play.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The decline stage can be a challenging time for companies as sales dwindle and profits erode. However, it's important to manage this stage gracefully and make strategic decisions that minimize losses.
It's like a seasoned actor choosing their final roles carefully, knowing that their time on stage is coming to an end.
Exactly. One option during this stage is to harvest the product, reducing marketing and production costs to maximize profits from the remaining sales.
So you're basically squeezing the last bit of juice out of the lemon.
Exactly. Another option is to divest the product, selling or licensing it to another company. This can be a way to recoup some of the initial investment and free up resources for other ventures. It's like passing the torch to a new generation.
And of course, there's always the option to discontinue the product altogether, acknowledging that it's run its course and making space for new innovations.
Exactly. Sometimes letting go is the best strategy.
Okay, so we've journeyed through the entire product life cycle from birth to decline. But remember, this is just one piece of the puzzle when it comes to understanding how products evolve in the market.
You're absolutely right. There are other factors at play, other trends and nuances that can impact a product's trajectory.
Right. So what else should we consider? What other concepts are essential for understanding the world of new product development and the product life cycle?
Well, let's talk about styles, fashions, and fads.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Break those down for us. What's the difference between a style, a fashion, and a fad?
A style is a fundamental and distinctive mode of expression. Okay. Think about those classic styles in clothing architecture or even music. They have enduring appeal and often reappear in cycles. Take bohemian fashion, for example. Flowy dresses, earthy tones, a carefree vibe. It's a style that has resurfaced time and again throughout history.
Right, it's those vintage trends that make a comeback every few decades.
Exactly. Now, a fashion is a currently accepted or popular style.
Yep.
It's what's trending at a particular moment in time.
So fashion is more temporary than style.
Exactly. Think about the latest fashion trends, those must-have items that everyone seems to be sporting. They might be all the rage for a season or two, but their popularity can fade as quickly as it emerged.
It's like what's hot on the runway or topping the music charts.
Exactly. Now, a fad is a bit different. It's a temporary period of unusually high sales driven by consumer enthusiasm and immediate product or brand popularity.
Okay.
Fads are often characterized by intense but short-lived bursts of excitement. Think about those viral products that everyone goes crazy for, like fidget spinners or those silly dancing hamsters.
Oh yeah, those come and go so fast.
Right. They capture our attention for a fleeting moment, but their appeal tends to fade quickly.
So styles have the enduring appeal. Fashions are those current trends that shape our tastes, and fads are those fleeting moments of intense popularity.
Precisely. Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about the importance of social responsibility in product decisions.
Right. Ethics and sustainability are hot topics these days.
You're absolutely right. Consumers are becoming more discerning, and they're demanding that companies operate responsibly and make choices that benefit society as a whole.
So it's not just about creating a cool product that people will buy.
Right. Marketers need to consider the social and environmental impact of their decisions.
Okay, so what are some key considerations in this area?
Well, there are things like product safety, environmental sustainability, and ethical sourcing practices.
So you're talking about making sure your products are safe for consumers to use.
Yes, and making sure they're produced in a way that minimizes their impact on the environment.
And ensuring that workers are treated fairly throughout the supply chain.
Exactly. It's about doing business the right way, even if it means making some tough choices that might impact the bottom line in the short term.
Makes sense. Okay, last but not least, let's touch on the challenges of international product and services marketing.
Ah, yes, going global can be a whole other ballgame.
Right. It's not just about translating your marketing materials.
Exactly. You have to understand different cultures, consumer preferences, and legal regulations.
And you need to figure out whether to adapt your products and services for different markets or maintain a standardized approach.
Precisely. For example, a food company might need to adjust its recipes to suit local tastes or comply with dietary restrictions. A clothing company might need to consider different sizing standards and fashion preferences. And a technology company might need to adapt its software to different languages and operating systems.
It's a lot to juggle.
It is, but it's essential for success in the global marketplace.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today.
Yeah.
From brainstorming new product ideas to navigating the complexities of international marketing. We've explored the product lifecycle from its exciting birth to its inevitable decline.
And we've touched on some important considerations like social responsibility and the differences between styles, fashions, and fads.
Wow. Our brains are definitely buzzing with new knowledge.
Excellent. And remember, these concepts aren't just for the classroom. They're the building blocks for success in the dynamic world of marketing.
So whether you're launching a new product, analyzing market trends, or simply trying to understand consumer behavior, these insights will serve you well.
Absolutely. And if you need a little extra help, don't forget to check out Grade Guru. They've got practice exams and a full summary of all this material at gradeguru.nl.
It's like having a secret weapon in your exam prep arsenal. All right, folks, that wraps up part 1 of our deep dive into new product development and the product life cycle. We'll be back soon with part 2, where we'll delve even deeper into those specific stages of the product life cycle. So grab a snack, stretch your legs, and get ready for more marketing magic.
See you soon. All right, so we're picking up where we left off, diving deeper into those specific stages of the product life cycle. Remember, we talked about how each stage presents unique challenges and opportunities for marketers?
Right, it's like a roadmap for your product's journey through the market. So let's take a closer look at each of these stages, starting with the introduction stage.
Sounds good. The introduction stage is all about making a grand entrance, capturing the attention of consumers and convincing them to give this new product a try. It's like a debutante ball.
Debutante ball.
Yeah, all eyes are on you. You're dressed to impress and you want to make a lasting impression.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
So it's about creating a buzz, generating excitement, and making sure your product stands out from the crowd.
Exactly. But it's also a time of high costs and uncertainty.
Right, because you've invested a lot in developing the product, and now you're waiting to see if it will actually take off.
Precisely. Sales are typically slow during this stage because consumers are still getting to know the product. They're weighing its benefits, comparing it to other options in the market.
So it's like those first few dates.
Yeah,
You're trying to figure out if there's a connection, if this is something worth pursuing.
that's a great analogy. And just like in dating, first impressions are everything.
So you've got to put your best foot forward.
Absolutely. You need to highlight those unique features and benefits that make your product stand out. You need to craft a compelling marketing message that resonates with your target audience.
And you need to choose the right distribution channels to make sure your product is available where those consumers are shopping.
Exactly. It's all about strategic planning and execution.
Okay, so let's say the product starts to gain traction. People are talking about it. Sales are picking up. We're moving into the growth stage now, right?
You got it. The growth stage is all about riding that wave of success, expanding your reach, and solidifying your position in the market. It's an exciting time for companies.
It's like watching your little seedling sprout and blossom into a beautiful flower.
Exactly. Sales are increasing rapidly, word of mouth is spreading, and new competitors are starting to emerge.
Ah, so the competition heats up.
Yes. As the market expands, you'll see more players entering the game trying to grab a slice of the pie.
So what's the key to staying ahead of the curve during this growth stage?
Well, you need to build brand loyalty, differentiate your product from the competition, and maybe even expand your product line to offer variations that cater to different customer segments.
Okay, so you're not just riding the waves, you're also steering the ship, making strategic decisions to ensure continued growth.
Precisely. Think about the early days of social media platforms. They started with a simple concept, but as they grew, they had to constantly innovate, adding new features, expanding their reach, and finding ways to engage their users.
And of course, you need to keep a close eye on your finances, making sure that growth is sustainable and profitable.
Absolutely. You don't want to get caught up in the excitement and overspend.
Right. You need to manage your resources wisely and make sure that growth is sustainable in the long run.
Exactly. Okay, now let's fast forward a bit. The market is starting to get crowded. Sales growth is leveling off. We're entering the maturity stage now.
The maturity stage. So this is where the product reaches its peak. It's like that point in a movie star's career where they've achieved superstar status. They're still in demand, but the initial frenzy has subsided.
Perfect analogy. The maturity stage is often the longest stage of the product life cycle, and it requires a different strategic approach.
Okay, so what are some key considerations during this stage?
Well, competition is typically very intense during the maturity stage, so companies need to find ways to defend their market share and maximize their profits.
So how do they do that?
One common strategy is to modify the market, finding new uses for the product, targeting new customer segments, or even repositioning the product to appeal to a different audience.
It's like those actors who reinvent themselves, taking on different roles to stay relevant.
Exactly. Another strategy is to modify the product itself, introducing new features, enhancing its quality, or updating its packaging, or designed to freshen up its appeal.
It's like remastering a classic film or releasing a special edition DVD with bonus features.
You got it. It's all about finding ways to keep the product fresh and exciting in a mature market.
Okay, so it's a combination of market modification and product modification.
Exactly. Now, of course, every product eventually faces the inevitable decline stage.
Right, the final curtain call.
Exactly.
Huh.
This is when sales start to decline, profits dwindle, and the product's once bright star begins to fade.
It's like the last episode of a beloved TV show. It's coming to an end, but it's still a little sad to see it go.
I agree. The decline stage can be triggered by various factors like technological advancements, changing consumer preferences, or increased competition.
Right. It's like when a new technology comes along and makes the old one obsolete.
Exactly. So, what options do companies have during this decline stage? Do they just wave the white flag and surrender?
Well, they could try to fight the inevitable, but that's often an uphill battle.
You're right. Sometimes it makes more sense to accept the decline and manage it strategically.
Okay, so what are some strategic options for managing the decline stage?
One option is to harvest the product, reducing marketing and production costs to maximize profits from those remaining sales.
So you're basically trying to squeeze every last drop of profit out of the product.
Exactly. Another option is to divest the product, selling or licensing it to another company that might see some remaining potential.
It's like finding a new home for a beloved pet that you can no longer care for.
That's a good way to put it. And of course, there's always the option to discontinue the product altogether, giving it a proper send-off and making space for new innovations.
Sometimes it's best to let go and move on to new and exciting ventures.
Exactly. Now remember, the product life cycle isn't always a linear progression. Some products might experience a resurgence in popularity.
Right, like those vintage fashion trends that come back in style.
Exactly. And some products might defy traditional stages altogether, remaining relevant and profitable for decades. Think about iconic brands like Coca-Cola or Levi's jeans.
They seem to defy the laws of the product life cycle.
They do. It's all about adapting to changing market conditions, staying true to your brand's core values, and constantly innovating to stay ahead of the curve.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all formula. It's
Yeah.
about understanding those key principles and applying them strategically.
Exactly. Now, in addition to the product life cycle, there are some other important concepts that marketers need to understand, like the adoption process.
The adoption process. Okay, tell us more about that.
The adoption process describes the mental stages that consumers go through when deciding whether or not to adopt a new product or service.
Okay, so it's like the journey a consumer takes from first hearing about a product to actually buying it.
Exactly. And there are 5 stages in this process: awareness, interest, evaluation, trial, and adoption.
Okay, so let's break those down. First, you have awareness. This is where consumers become aware of the new product or service.
Right. They might see an ad, hear about it from a friend, or stumble upon it online.
Okay, then comes interest. This is where consumers start to learn more about the product and its potential benefits.
Exactly. They might read reviews, watch product demos, or visit the company's website.
And if they're sufficiently intrigued, they move on to the evaluation stage.
Right. This is where consumers weigh the pros and cons of the product. They compare it to other options, consider its price, and think about whether it's the right fit for them.
So they're really doing their homework.
They are. If they decide to give it a try, they move on to the trial stage. This might involve purchasing a small quantity of the product, signing up for a free trial, or borrowing it from a friend.
So it's like a test drive.
Exactly. And if they like the product and decide to incorporate it into their regular routine, they reach the final stage adoption.
So they've become a loyal customer.
Right. They might even recommend the product to their friends and family, becoming brand advocates.
Okay, so understanding the adoption process can really help marketers tailor their strategies to reach consumers at each stage of the journey.
Absolutely. For example, during the awareness stage, you might focus on broad-reaching marketing campaigns to get the word out about your product. But during the evaluation stage, you might provide more detailed information and comparisons to help consumers make an informed decision.
That makes sense. It's all about meeting consumers where they are in their decision-making process.
Exactly. Now let's talk about another important concept: diffusion of innovations.
Diffusion of innovations. Okay, what is that all about?
Diffusion of innovations describes how new products or ideas spread through population over time.
So it's like those ripples that spread outward when you drop a pebble in a pond.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And there are 5 categories of adopters: innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority, and laggards.
Okay, so let's start with the innovators. These are the adventurous risk takers who are always eager to try the latest and greatest.
Exactly. They're often tech-savvy, influential, and willing to pay a premium for the privilege of being the first on the block with a new gadget or service.
They're the ones lining up outside the Apple Store for the latest iPhone.
You got it. Then come the early adopters. They're a bit more cautious than innovators, but they're still open to new ideas and willing to embrace change. They're often opinion leaders in their social circles, and their recommendations carry a lot of weight.
They're the influencers, the trendsetters.
Exactly. Next, we have the early majority. This group is more pragmatic. They want to see evidence that a product works before they invest their time and money. They're often influenced by the opinions of early adopters, and they're looking for practical benefits and value for their money.
So they're not as quick to jump on the bandwagon.
Right, they want to see proof that it's worth the investment.
Okay. And then we have the late majority. This group is even more skeptical. They tend to adopt new products only after they become mainstream and widely accepted.
They're often resistant to change, and they might be motivated by factors like peer pressure or the fear of missing out.
So they're more comfortable following the crowd.
Exactly. And finally, we have the laggards. This group is the most resistant to change. They might be suspicious of new technologies or simply content with the way things are. They tend to adopt new products only when they have no other choice.
So they're the traditionalists, the ones who stick to what they know.
Exactly. Now, understanding the diffusion of innovations can help marketers develop targeted strategies to reach each adopter category.
Right. For example, you might focus your initial marketing efforts on innovators and early adopters, knowing that they're more likely to embrace your product and spread the word to others.
Exactly. And as the product gains wider acceptance, you can shift your focus to the early majority and late majority, highlighting its practical benefits and social proof.
Makes sense. It's all about tailoring your message to the specific needs and motivations of each group.
You got it. Now let's wrap up this part of our deep dive by talking about the importance of branding and brand equity.
Ah, yes. Branding is essential in today's competitive market. Consumers are bombarded with choices, so it's crucial to create a strong brand identity that stands out from the crowd.
You're absolutely right. A brand is more than just a name or a logo. It's the sum of all the experiences and associations that consumers have with a company or product.
It's about the emotions, the feelings,
Yeah.
the values that a brand evokes.
Exactly. A strong brand can create loyalty, trust, and a sense of connection with consumers.
And that can translate into increased sales, higher profit margins, and a competitive advantage in the marketplace.
Absolutely. Now, brand equity is the value that a brand adds to a product or service. It's the premium that consumers are willing to pay for a product simply because of its brand name.
So a product with strong brand equity can command a higher price than a generic or lesser-known competitor.
Exactly. Think about brands like Apple, Nike, or Starbucks. They've built incredible brand equity over time, and consumers are willing to pay a premium for their products.
It's like buying a designer handbag. You're not just paying for the materials and craftsmanship, you're also paying for the prestige and exclusivity of the brand.
Exactly. So how do companies build brand equity? Well, it's a long-term process that involves creating a consistent brand identity, delivering high-quality products and services, and building strong relationships with consumers.
It's about creating a positive brand image and reinforcing it through every interaction with the consumer.
You got it. And it's about understanding the power of storytelling, using your brand story to connect with consumers on an emotional level.
So it's not just about what you sell. It's about who you are as a brand and what you stand for.
Absolutely. Now, before we move on to the next part of our deep dive, let's recap some of the key takeaways from this discussion of the product life cycle and related concepts.
Sounds good. What are the main points that our listeners should remember?
Well, first, remember that the product life cycle is a journey with distinct stages. Each stage presents unique challenges and opportunities for marketers.
Right, so it's important to understand those stages and tailor your strategies accordingly.
Exactly. Second, remember that the adoption process describes the mental stages that consumers go through when deciding whether or not to adopt a new product. And the diffusion of innovations describes how new products or ideas spread through a population over time.
So it's important to understand these processes and how they can influence your marketing efforts.
Absolutely. And finally, remember that branding and brand equity are essential for success in today's competitive market. Building a strong brand can create loyalty, trust, and a willingness to pay a premium for your products.
Great. So those are the key takeaways from this part of our deep dive. We'll be back soon with part 3, where we'll explore some additional concepts and strategies related to new product development and the product life cycle. So stay tuned.
See you soon. Welcome back to the deep dive. So we've explored the stages of the product life cycle, the adoption process, the diffusion of innovations, and the importance of branding and brand equity. But there's so much more to uncover in the world of new product development. Let's dive into some additional concepts and strategies that will really help you understand this dynamic field.
Sounds good. What else should we explore?
Well, let's start by talking about the different types of consumer products. Not all products are created equal. They have different characteristics, different buying behaviors associated with them.
Okay, that makes sense. So what are the main types of consumer products?
Well, we can categorize them into four main types: convenience, shopping, specialty, and unsought products.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Break those down for us.
Sure. Convenience products are those everyday items that consumers purchase frequently, immediately, and with minimal effort.
So we're talking about things like snacks, toothpaste, toilet paper.
Exactly. Those are all perfect examples. Consumers usually don't spend a lot of time comparing different brands or shopping around for the best deal. They just grab what they need and go.
Makes sense. Now, what about shopping products?
Shopping products are those items that consumers spend more time comparing and evaluating before making a purchase.
Okay, so they're putting more thought into it.
Exactly. They might compare prices, features, styles, quality before making a decision.
So we're talking about things like clothing, electronics, appliances.
You got it. These products are often more expensive than convenience products, and consumers are more willing to invest time and effort in the decision-making process.
Okay. Now, what about specialty products?
Specialty products are those unique or luxury items that consumers are willing to go out of their way to purchase.
Okay, so these are the high-end items, the ones that people are really passionate about.
Exactly. They might be designer clothing, luxury cars, rare collectibles.
So consumers are willing to pay a premium for these products.
They are, because they offer something special, something unique that they can't find anywhere else.
Okay, and finally we have unsought products. What are those?
Unthought products are those items that consumers don't typically think about buying until they need them.
So these are the products that people don't actively seek out.
Right. They might be life insurance, funeral services, or fire extinguishers.
So marketers have to work a little harder to get these products on consumers' radar.
They do. They might use educational marketing campaigns or target consumers who are experiencing a specific need.
Okay, that makes sense. So understanding the different types of consumer products can really help marketers develop targeted strategies for each category.
Absolutely. Now let's move on to another important topic: pricing strategies.
Ah, yes. Pricing can be a tricky business. You want to set a price that's attractive to consumers, but also profitable for your company.
Exactly. There are many different pricing strategies that companies can use, and the best approach depends on a variety of factors like the product, the target market, the competitive landscape.
Okay, so what are some common pricing strategies?
Well, one common approach is cost plus pricing. This involves calculating the cost of producing the product and then adding a markup to determine the selling price.
So it's a pretty straightforward way to ensure that you're covering your costs and making a profit.
Right. Another common strategy is value-based pricing. This involves setting the price based on the perceived value that the product offers to consumers.
So it's not just about the cost of production, it's about the benefits that the product provides.
Exactly. If consumers believe that a product is worth the price, they'll be more willing to pay for it.
Makes sense. Now, what about competitive pricing?
Competitive pricing involves setting the price based on what your competitors are charging.
So you're keeping an eye on the market and adjusting your prices accordingly.
Right. This can be a good strategy for staying competitive, but it's important to make sure that you're still making a profit.
Okay. And are there any other pricing strategies that we should know about?
Well, there's also premium pricing, which involves setting a high price to create a sense of exclusivity and luxury. And there's penetration pricing, which involves setting a low price initially to gain market share and then gradually increasing the price over time.
So there are many different approaches to pricing, and it's important to choose the strategy that's right for your product and your business goals.
Absolutely. Now let's move on to another important aspect of marketing: distribution channels.
Distribution channels. Okay, tell us more about those.
Distribution channels are the pathways that products take from the producer to the consumer.
So it's how products get from point A to point B.
Exactly. And there are many different types of distribution channels, from direct-to-consumer models to complex networks involving wholesalers, retailers, and distributors.
Okay, so let's start with direct-to-consumer. This is where the producer sells directly to the consumer without any intermediaries.
Right. This can be done through online stores, company websites, or even pop-up shops.
So it's a way for companies to cut out the middleman and have more control over the customer experience.
Exactly. Now, another common channel is retail. This involves selling products through retail stores, like supermarkets, department stores, or specialty shops.
So this is the traditional brick-and-mortar model.
It is. Retail stores offer a convenient way for consumers to browse and purchase products. And they often provide additional services like customer support and product demonstrations.
And what about wholesale?
Wholesale involves selling products in bulk to wholesalers who then resell them to retailers.
Okay, so the wholesaler acts as a middleman between the producer and the retailer.
Exactly. This can be a good option for companies that want to expand their reach without having to manage their own retail operations.
Now, what about distribution?
Distribution involves using distributors to get products to retailers or other businesses.
So distributors are like specialized logistics companies.
They are. They handle the transportation, warehousing, and delivery of products.
Okay, so there are many different distribution channels, and the best approach depends on the product, the target market, and the company's overall business strategy.
Exactly. Now let's talk about another important aspect of marketing: promotion.
Promotion. This is all about getting the word out about your product right.
Exactly. Promotion encompasses all the activities that companies use to communicate with consumers and persuade them to buy their products.
So we're talking about advertising, public relations, sales promotions, content marketing, social media marketing.
You got it. There are so many different promotional tools that companies can use, and the best approach is to create a mix that reaches your target audience effectively.
Right. It's not about using every single tool. It's about choosing the ones that will work best for your specific product and market.
Exactly. Now let's wrap up our discussion of new product development and the product lifecycle by talking about the importance of innovation.
Ah, yes. Innovation is essential for staying ahead of the curve in today's rapidly changing world.
Absolutely. Companies that don't innovate risk becoming obsolete.
So how can companies foster a culture of innovation?
Well, it starts with leadership. Leaders need to create an environment where employees feel empowered to share their ideas and take risks. They need to encourage experimentation and reward creativity.
It's about creating a culture where failure is seen as a learning opportunity, not a setback.
Exactly. Companies also need to invest in research and development to stay ahead of technological advancements and identify emerging trends.
It's about constantly pushing the boundaries, exploring new possibilities, and challenging the status quo.
You got it. Now remember, innovation isn't just about creating brand new products. It's also about finding ways to improve existing products and processes.
So it's about continuous improvement.
Exactly. And it's about being open to new ideas from both inside and outside the company.
So it's a collaborative effort.
It is. The most innovative companies are those that embrace diversity of thought and encourage collaboration across departments and disciplines.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So to wrap things up, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into new product development and the product life cycle. We've explored the stages of the product life cycle, the adoption process, the diffusion of innovations, the importance of branding and brand equity, the different types of consumer products, pricing strategies, distribution channels, promotional tools, and the crucial role of innovation.
We have. It's a lot to digest, but understanding these concepts is essential for success in the dynamic world of marketing.
Absolutely. And remember, this deep dive was brought to you by Grade Guru. You can find practice exams and a full summary of all this material at gradeguru.nl. So if you're prepping for an exam or just want to brush up on your marketing knowledge, be sure to check them out.
It's a great resource for students and professionals alike.
Okay, folks, that's a wrap on this episode of The Deep Dive. We hope you found it informative, engaging, and maybe even a little bit inspiring. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive into the fascinating world of business and marketing.
See you next time.